So far, Season 9 has easily become one of the best seasons of Rick and Morty, with little to no truly bad episodes. And this week's was no different, revealing even more about the characters we love and building on one of the first episodes of the entire show. This is a breakdown and review of Season 9, Episode 5 of Rick and Morty, Jer Bud. Morty takes a vacation to reunite with his old dog, Snowball. As you'd recall, back in Season 1, we had the episode Lawnmower Dog, where Snowball became a tyrannical ruler after gaining hyper-intelligence. Things did eventually escalate to where the dogs pretty much took over the entire world, but it's only after Snowball witnesses a nightmare where Morty is sick that he realizes,
we are not them. We are not them.
And so he takes the dogs to a new world, where they apparently won't make the same mistakes as humans.
Oh, Lord.
What seemed like a heartwarming reunion quickly turns sour when Morty sees that the dogs in these worlds now have these abnormal humanoid pets called mups. And then he's ambushed by these wild monkey humanoid looking things. Naturally, this causes some of Morty's alarm bells to start ringing, but not yet enough for him to freak out. That comes a few moments later. See, one of the dogs takes him to a factory and shows Morty a video of how the process of breeding mups works. Needless to say, it's all kinds of levels of fucked. Highlighted by not only Morty's expression, but the way the light of the TV is reflecting on his face. Love when cartoons use lighting to illustrate emotion. They did this in the last episode too when Morty entered the garage. Now on the surface, obviously this is an extremely traumatic thing to witness, but like I've said before, Morty has seen much worse. So to me, it seems like this specific video might be hitting him for a different reason. It could be reminding him of the way Ricks in the Citadel spent years breeding Mortys just to use them as shields from the government, that his life is essentially meaningless. And you gotta love how there's that one dog constantly patronizing him the same way we do to pets. Real quick, if you're enjoying the video so far, leave a like and subscribe while you're down there. According to my analytics, 80% of you watching these breakdowns are not subscribed. I'm making weekly breakdowns of Season 9 as new episodes come out, and I mainly do big character recap and analysis videos. Subscribe so you don't miss out. Later, Morty starts packing up, and I noticed that Snowball's bathroom is literally a fire hydrant in his room. I have no idea why he has a painting of it overlooking a sunset though. Maybe this is supposed to be edgy for dogs, I don't know. Snowball catches on to Morty and assumes he's gonna cancel him for all the shit he's seen. But to be fair to Morty, he doesn't explicitly say anything. He just wants to leave as Snowball's friend and nothing more. Of course, in classic fashion, Morty gets ambushed by the dogs on the way out. After narrowly escaping, he tries to pull a Jurassic Park on the monkey humanoid things, but of course, that doesn't work. When they catch him, Morty says,
"Please don't take me to join some kind of rebellion."
Which is funny because back in the Ricks Must Be Crazy in Season 2, Morty was forced into joining a wild tribe because of Rick's stubbornness and refusal to leave. He's 100% thinking back to that moment because
You have to get us the fuck out of here! These people are backward savages!
they take him to their leader, and yet again, Morty refuses to play a part in this rebellion. He just wants to go home. I also love the fact that he doesn't move a muscle when a dog comes shooting down at them. He's so unbelievably done with this entire situation. But after the leader dies, Morty finally stops holding back and goes absolutely apeshit. Again, this isn't because he suddenly cares about the rebellion. It's because he's pissed at Snowball. And honestly, look at the insane amount of projection this guy does.
Find him. He said we were asshole racist piece of shit bigots.
I didn't say that!
Then the second Morty takes over the rebel group, what does he say?
You asshole racist piece of shit bigot!
Morty is acting a lot like Rick in this episode.
You're gonna be just like me. It's a disease, Morty. A genetic disease. It's already in you, Morty.
I do love when he gets serious, but unlike Rick, he makes the stupid mistake of recruiting the Mups to fight the dogs. I mean, what was he expecting? These are literal babies, and they start killing each other by accident. Eventually, he storms into Snowball's room and engages in a sick fight. What I want to highlight is this line from Snowball.
Have you come to swat me with a newspaper?
I'd like to clarify something. Jerry was the one who was actually a dick to Snowball, and Morty was the only one in the family who actually took good care of him. Now, I'm sure this isn't a plot hole, it's just meant to showcase how far gone Snowball is and how much he projects his own insecurities onto others. Even though this fight sequence is short, you know me, I'm a sucker for well choreographed fight scenes. Also, keeping in line with Morty acting a lot like Rick.
Typical canine! Full of shame but still shitting on the carpet!
Like father, like goddamn grandson. This scene also reminded me of the last time we actually saw Snowball. It wasn't back in Season 1. It was actually in his non-canon cameo appearance in Never Ricking Morty. Looks like the writers are making good on their word about touching back on all these potential plot lines at one point or another. Anyway, Snowball starts projecting even more, claiming that Morty is the one who sent him to this planet and the reason he became so intelligent. For a hyper-intelligent dog, he's a bit of a dumbass. Morty ends up defeating him or farming in the process. But unfortunately, the war continues because he doesn't take sides. The two eventually enter Snowball's panic room and have a heart-to-heart.
I was just trying to be like you.
In truth, Snowball, you didn't come here to be like Morty. You came here to be better than Morty. These quotes perfectly explain Snowball's arc.
Santayana says that those who forget the past are condemned to repeat it. He also said a fanatic is someone who redoubles his efforts while losing sight of his goal.
Despite seemingly wanting to be better than the human race, Snowball ends up making the exact same mistakes. And worse, he completely loses sight of his true goal. He wanted to prove that dogs were above humans, but in doing so, he became just as controlling, insecure, and cruel as the people he hated. By the end though, Snowball accepts that he was just as bad as humans, and Morty seems to forgive him. But before we get to that final scene, let me touch on the Jerry plot. Listen, I don't know what it is about the writers, but they love putting Jerry in nasty ass plot lines this season. In order not to bomb an interview, Space Beth gives him a worry worm to calm his nerves. These things basically eat up your anxiety. Because of this, Jerry aces his interview and gets a meeting with the CEO. On the way back home, he jams out to Rebecca Black's Friday. What an insane throwback. Also showcases that Jerry right now is fried. What I love is that of his own volition, Rick actually gets involved to help Jerry out, opening a portal from his garage to the driveway. It's a small comedic scene, but I think it also shows that Rick does value family time and Loki doesn't want to be left out. Because Jerry naturally has a lot of anxiety, his body becomes the perfect breeding ground for these worms. To fix it, they go to Space Beth's worm dealer and find absolutely nothing useful there. Instead, they just lose Jerry.
Well, la-dee-da. Hey, that's mine!
See, now that the worms have basically eaten up all of Jerry's anxiety, they decide to create chaos and feed on other people's anxiety instead. Which is why Jerry starts doing some abhorrent shit. And because people in advertising are apparently freaks according to this show, these guys fucking love it. A bit too much. Like, what the hell is this, man? One thing I wanted to note here is that when Rick crashes in, he for some reason holds his head in discomfort. I mean, has he ever done that before? He's had plenty of rocky landings and he's pretty much a fucking god. I don't know, just something I wanted to mention. Funny thing though, what stops Jerry from overflowing with these worms is him realizing that he's hired, which brings back his anxiety. And then we see that the worms start crawling toward Rick because funny enough, he's scared of Jerry having a job.
Are you afraid of Jerry getting a job?
I don't know. I'm used to him being around. He's part of the wallpaper.
Of course, someone like Rick would be scared of change, but it's also weirdly sweet because it shows that Rick doesn't just see Jerry as some disposable idiot anymore. As much as he roasts him, he's gotten used to Jerry being part of the house, part of the routine, part of the family. He gets everyone out, then traps all the worms inside this bubble. By the end, one of the marketing people asks him about marketing the bubble, and Rick says,
Only if you put Jerry on it.
Done.
Rick has a lot of small moments in this episode that showcase just how much he actually cares for the family. Now let's get back to the end. Rick arrives in the dog world to see everything in ruin, and Morty tells him,
I never took a moral stance, though. I resisted it every turn. You would have been so proud of me.
Really? Good boy.
a small but extremely significant moment, because what this does is confirm that Morty has essentially been conditioned into Rick's good boy, much like a dog. Most of the time, he follows orders, and he gets praised when he doesn't interfere. It's ironic Morty doesn't see it despite getting into a huge fight with Snowball regarding that. Speaking of that, there's a theory I want to touch on that might actually come to pass by the end of the season. See, a lot of people thought last week's episode took place sometime in the past in Evil Morty's dimension, and honestly, I get why. Rick's insane drinking, the fact that we don't see the pool, and especially that final line, runs in the family,
You're gonna be just like me.
all makes it seem like this is a precursor to that one scene that showed how Evil Morty became Evil Morty. But I think this week's episode proves we might be going in a little bit of a different direction. See, Rick has essentially taken care of all of his nemesis at this point. Rick Prime is gone, Evil Morty's in prison, and yeah, Mr. Nimbus is technically still around, but let's be real, Rick does not really give a fork about him like that. So if Rick has no real external villain left, then where does this conflict go? I think the season is building up to Morty becoming Rick's next real nemesis. Now, a lot of people seem to think this means our Morty is going to become Evil Morty, but I don't think that's what's happening. Morty won't become a villain per se, he's still a Morty who loves Rick, but he's slowly realizing that that love might be destroying him. He's seen the drinking, he's seen the guilt, and he knows the self-destruction. Maybe by the end of the season, Morty finally stops playing the role Rick needs him to play. He could finally stop being the sidekick. Maybe he stops being the grandson who always comes back. Maybe he stops being Rick's good boy, and maybe he finally stops being his bitch. Up until this point, I've put a lot of focus on how Rick's story can develop this season, but I've been neglecting the importance of Morty's. I think this would make for a good subversion and a natural progression of the story going forward. After all, we know Rick finds Morty irreplaceable, but now in a twisted way, he might become even more irreplaceable as his nemesis. Overall, I would say this was another great episode of the season, and so far, there hasn't been a single one that has come close to being as bad as that sperm episode. If you're new around here, subscribe and leave a comment down below what you thought of this episode, and leave a like while you're down there. It really helps me in continuing these weekly breakdowns. Thank you again for all of you who have been tuning in. It truly means a lot. If you want to support me further, follow all my socials, join my Patreon, and consider grabbing my book The Shattered Absolution, heavily inspired by the shows I cover. And I want to thank you once again for watching.